It is Thursday, Parshas Tzav, Ches Nisan Tov Pei Vuv on Edge. My name is Gershy Schwarcz, and I'm pleased to be your host on Edge.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
So I decided people need a little bit of humor, especially now that the world is shaky. You probably caught the end of my segment yesterday. So today I have another one for you. So wait until the end of the show and you'll find out. Trump is mad at NATO. He wrote in all caps early morning, and you have to be an expert to read his posts. NATO nations have done absolutely nothing to help with the lunatic nation, now militarily decimated, of Iran, full stop. The USA needs nothing from NATO, but never forget, in quotes, this very important point in time. This is the end of his tweet, and now we can go and talk about Montreal and Matzah. Montreal and Matzah, Beckerai, 718-619-3661. Go on to montrealmatzah.com, type in your zip code, and you will find the nearest supermarket that sells matzahs. Now, especially in this time, you want to help someone out who doesn't have the means to buy the matzahs, buy them the matzahs, but Montreal matzahs. Because Montreal matzahs says it all. 4320 14th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. The best matzah, Montreal matzah. Should I say more? No. Day 27 of the war with Iran, and there is no end in sight. CENTCOM Commander Brad Cooper gave a full update on the massive military campaign known as Operation Epic Fury. Now, the focus remains degrading Iran's ability to project power, meaning their ability to use military force across the region. The U.S. Army conducted the longest field artillery strike in its history using precision missiles. Thousands of Iranian missiles and drones have been destroyed. The Iranian Navy has been effectively neutralized and is no longer operating. Iran's tactical air force, its frontline combat planes, is grounded. Missile and drone launch rates have been significantly reduced to 90%, they say. More than 8,000 U.S. combat flights have been conducted. Full air superiority over Iran is now being maintained. More than 8,000 military targets have been struck. 130 Iranian vessels have been destroyed. This is the largest naval destruction since World War II. The U.S. military says Iran's ability to fight is declining, and fast. A massive integrated air defense network, which is connected to a system of radars and missiles designed to shoot down aircraft, is now active across the Middle East. Gulf partners, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE have intercepted thousands of Iranian drones. Key strikes hit the bases and weapons near the Strait of Hormuz, facilities which Iran uses to attack ships there. In an underground coastal facility was destroyed using 5,000-pound bombs. Anti-ship missiles, launchers, radar and intelligence sites have all been eliminated. Iran's ability to threaten global shipping in that area has been severely weakened, or altogether. The commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy has been killed in an Israeli airstrike today. Now listen to this. His name is Admiral Alireza Tangziri, if I pronounced it right. He commanded the Iranian Navy for 8 years straight. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper today confirmed the targeted killing today. He said, let's call him Tangerine. Okay, Tangerine was responsible for harassing thousands of innocent sailors, attacking hundreds of ships with drones and missiles, and killing countless of civilians. Cooper declared that Tangerine's death makes the region safer. According to CENTCOM, 92% of Iran's large naval ships have been eliminated since Operation Epic Fury began. Cooper said the Iranian Navy has completely lost its ability to threaten the region, and it is now an irreversible decline since this guy has been killed, Tangerine. The U.S. military is now calling on every Iranian serving in the Navy to abandon their posts and return home immediately to avoid further risk of death. Meanwhile, the Israeli Air Force carried out massive airstrikes across Iran over the past 24 hours, and explosions are now rocking the Iranian capital. Multiple blasts were heard in Tehran tonight. Sources confirm these are direct hits, not just Iranian air defenses firing into the sky. The headquarters of the IRGC Joint Staff is currently under heavy attack by U.S. and Israeli forces. This follows a wave of overnight strikes where 60 fighter jets dropped more than 150 bombs near Tehran and central Iran. Overnight, strikes in the city of Isfahan hit several weapon factories, including an air defense production facility and a site belonging to the IRGC Quds Force. In Parchin, just east of Tehran, I hope I pronounced that right, Israel struck the regime's main missile production hub. They hit an air defense development facility, a plant used for casting and filing warheads and missile engine mixing site, and a solid fuel production plant, if you understood what this means. The Iranian regime, for its part, is making its own claims about the conflict. Now, it says it struck an American F-18 aircraft in Kanabar, using an IRGC Navy air defense system. It claims that Iranian army targeted the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier with a ground-to-sea missile, forcing it to change position. And it says it targeted Israeli military and security centers in what it called Wave 80, in coordination with Hezbollah. Well, we all know where these missiles went. Tel Aviv, Arad, not exactly military bases. Meanwhile, US forces, including Marines and more than 1,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division, are deploying to the Middle East to support combat operations like we mentioned here yesterday. The diplomatic battle is also escalating. The White House said Wednesday that President Trump is prepared to, quote, unleash hell if Iran refuses to come to a deal. He has just issued a strict 10-day deadline for Tehran to completely dismantle its energy facilities, or the US military will wipe them out. The Iranian regime is digging in, pushing back hard against American pressure. The US had put forward a 15-point ceasefire plan, reportedly offering lifting economic sanctions and exchanging for Iran giving up all of its enriched uranium. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi declared today no negotiations with the American exists. He claimed that the very fact the Americans are talking about negotiations is an admission of defeat. Iran's parliament speaker echoed that defiance, telling the country that telling the country that they have achieved a historic victory, and that no one can issue an ultimatum to Iran. Now, behind the scenes, the threat is growing. Reports that following the death of the Supreme Leader say that the Revolutionary Guards are now in total control. Hardliners are pushing aggressively for Tehran to immediately build a nuclear weapon. They want to go full force. But President Trump says Iran's tone is completely changing behind the scenes. Speaking Wednesday night at a Republican dinner in Washington, Trump said Iran desperately wants to make a deal, but they're afraid to say it openly, afraid they'll be killed by their own people, or by us, he says. Or the idea of anyone taking over as Iran's supreme leader. Trump joked last night. You know what? Okay, I'll tell you at the end. So make sure to stick around until the end of the segment. But this morning, President Trump escalated things dramatically. Holding a major cabinet meeting, Trump declared that very substantial talks are now going on with Iran, behind the scenes, obviously. He said the war is ahead of schedule. The original estimate was for 4 to 6 weeks, but Trump says the Iranian regime is now defeated and cannot make a comeback. In a major announcement, Trump indicated that Iran's new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei is likely now dead as well, he says. Mujtaba reportedly took over after his father was killed earlier in the war, but he had not been seen in public. Confirming the intelligence, Trump's exact words were, "We have to stop this maniac, who is no longer with us," he says. The supreme leader wasn't so supreme, no longer with us. It's very sad, he says. During the briefing, Trump asked advisor Steve Witkoff for permission to disclose a secret gift. Witkoff replied, "You could do anything you want, sir." Trump then revealed that Iran gave the United States 8 large boats of oil as a tribute, sailed under Pakistani flags to prove they are serious about peace. Trump said of the Iranians, quote, "I say they're lousy fighters but great negotiators. They're begging to work out a deal." He noted they want a deal because they have been thoroughly beaten. Trump hinted that if the right deal is made, the Strait of Hormuz will reopen, but he added sharply, "We don't need the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't affect us at all." Other top officials at the cabinet briefing highlighted the severe threat Iran posed before the war began. Advisor Steve Witkoff said intelligence showed Iran possessed 460 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, enough to make 11 atomic bombs. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said Iran had lied to the world about the range of its missiles. He summarized the current strategy by saying, quote, "War is negotiated by other means, and we will continue negotiating with bombs." Listen to this.
See ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs.
At the same cabinet meeting, President Trump strongly criticized America's allies. He expressed deep disappointment with NATO, speaking about the United Kingdom. Trump said the US has always been there for the UK, but now I don't know anymore. He mocked the UK for offering to send aircraft carriers only when the war is over, calling their ships toys. He compared to the American fleet. If you listen to this. Anyway, Trump also issued a warning about the Middle East, saying, "We will protect the Gulf countries," meaning Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, United Nations, United Arab Emirates, and did I miss anyone? Even if we don't stay, they said. Secretary of State Marco Rubio backed up the president, calling out European leaders who claimed the war with Iran is not Europe's problem. Rubio fired back, saying, "Well, Ukraine is not America's war, and yet we've contributed more than fight. More to that fight than any other country in the world has." He's speaking about Europe, England, France, and all them. The Wall Street Journal reported Trump has told people around him that he hopes to wrap up the conflict in the Middle East in the coming weeks. The White House said the campaign was very close to meeting its goals. Israeli officials, though, told reporters a deal is unlikely, and said Trump could still declare a temporary ceasefire on its own. On the ground, pieces of a shot-down Iranian ballistic missile fell in the street in Abu Dhabi, killing 2 people and wounding 3. 2 teenagers were killed in the Iranian city of Shiraz. An 8-story building was reportedly destroyed in an attack on the port city of Bandar Abbas in southern Iran. Isfahan, Shiraz, and Tayyabad, and also Mashhad all are under relentless attacks right now. Hezbollah fired 6 rockets towards central Israel. All 6 were intercepted, but 2 Israeli soldiers were seriously wounded and 5 others lightly hurt during fighting in Lebanon. Kuwait also captured a 6-member Hezbollah cell that confessed to planning a high-level assassination attempt. Russia is reportedly secretly arranging shipments of attack drones, Shahed drones, medicine and food to Iran. Senior Iranian and Russian officials began those discussions just days after the first US and Israeli strikes on Tehran. The Trump administration has reportedly been considering occupying or blockading Karg Island. We spoke about this many times. Iran's main hub for 90%, I guess, of all their oil exports, their money. Iran is now fortifying the island in preparation for a possible US attack. Iran's parliament speaker warned that if Iran's island territory were occupied, a neighboring country would face consequences. On the diplomatic front, Egypt said it was ready to host de-escalation talks. Qatar distanced itself from any mediation role, with a government spokesperson saying, pointedly, if they exist, if Iran exists. The UAE's ambassador to the US wrote in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that ending the war too soon, and I said it yesterday, would be a mistake, saying it needs a decisive outcome. And in his words, Iran cannot win. Oil prices topped $104 a barrel as hopes for a deal faded. The World Trade Organization warned that the Strait of Hormuz closure is already disrupting global fertilizer supplies. Roughly a third of the world fertilizers normally passes through that strait. The disruption is expected to cause food shortages and rising prices around the world. Republican lawmakers vented frustration at Capitol Hill, briefing Wednesday over being kept in the dark about the war's progress. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina said that she would not support sending ground troops. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri called for the conflict to end. 4 people were hurt after a cluster missile fired from an Iran missile that struck the Arab-Israeli town of Kfar Qasem, it's called. A cluster missile is a weapon that breaks apart, like I said many times here, in the sky and drops smaller bombs over a wide area. Now listen to this. This is very interesting. If you look closely at the footage, you'll see a dramatic video from the Al Jarmak channel, an Arabic channel, caught the moment. You can see the people standing next to the car, and the missile strikes that very point where they were standing. And if you look very closely, the same footage, you'll see that the seconds before the hit, a little cat also escaped. So they didn't get hurt. None of them got hurt. They ran to shelter just in time. Anyway, Mamash Murab Masech Hashem, if you see that. After Arab-Israeli journalists and Iraqi Shiats channels released this very footage, the Iranian Tasnim news agency published its own video of the damage. Tasnim is connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It boasted about the power of its missiles, saying, "Wow, look how powerful we are." Palestinian and Gazan channels try to change the story, seeing the problem with Iran hitting an Arab area inside Israel. They claimed the damage was caused by an Israeli interceptor missile, not an Iranian one. Those same channels celebrated Iranian missiles as blessed resistance missiles when they land in Jewish areas. Separately, another Iranian missile hit 2 homes in Shomron. A strike was also reported in the village of Silwad, near eastern Ramallah. A lot of Arabs live there. In northern Israel, a young girl in Tzfas went into cardiac arrest after she fell out of bed while rushing to the shelter during a missile siren. United Hatzalah paramedics performed CPR and used a defibrillator on the scene, and she was brought to the hospital in serious condition. Staff Sergeant Uri Greenberg, Hashem Yim Kodumai, a 21-year-old soldier, a Jewish boy, was killed in a gunfight with Hezbollah terrorists in southern Lebanon. Just hours later, the IDF announced a second fatality. Sergeant Aviad Elchanan Volansky, Ochet, Hashem Yim Kodumai, he was killed when Hezbollah fired 2 anti-tank missiles north of the Litani River. The first missile was intercepted by a Merkava tank's active defense system, but the second missile struck the tank, and 2 officers and 2 soldiers were also injured in the strike. Volansky is the fourth Israeli soldier killed since the renewed ground offensive began. Meanwhile, the IDF confirmed it eliminated senior Hezbollah commander Hassan Mohammed Bashir in an airstrike. Bashir led Hezbollah's anti-tank unit and had spent at least the last 2 years organizing attacks and terrorist attacks against Israeli troops and civilians. In addition to the fatalities, another soldier was wounded in the Ori Greenberg gunfight. 4 more IDF troops were injured in a separate Hezbollah mortar attack, and that 1 additional soldier was also hurt in a friendly fire incident. On the ground in southern Lebanon, Golani Brigade forces have destroyed around 200 Hezbollah terror hideouts and bases as part of their ongoing operations in Lebanon. 1 person was killed and another seriously injured after a direct rocket hit the northern Israeli city of Nahariya. Emergency crews are on the scene, and we will bring you more details as they come available. In a separate barrage, Hezbollah fired 20 rockets at northern Israel, triggering heavy sirens across Haifa and the Galil. Now, but the IDF says most of those rockets were intercepted by air defenses Iron Dome and THAAD and David Sling, while others landed in open areas. There are no immediate reports of injuries from that attack. At the same time, Iran fired 4 separate waves of missiles at Israel, all within 2 hours. 7 people were injured in those attacks. Separately, a Pakistani official said Israel agreed not to kill 2 senior Iranian officials. Now, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, after both Pakistan and the United States asked Israel to hold off and take their names off the assassination list. In northern Iraq, the US military launched a heavy airstrike against Iranian-backed proxy groups in Mosul. An American A-10 attack plane opened fire on the proxy forces, firing its massive heavy cannons until it used up almost all of its bullets. Meanwhile, Iranian state media is broadcasting new propaganda to boost morale. The regime released highly produced footage showing Revolutionary Guard forces praying to Allah right before launching ballistic missiles towards Israel. Motor oil was found hidden inside the United Nations humanitarian aid shipment headed into Gaza. Kogat, the Israeli military body that coordinates aid into Gaza, caught the attempt and sent a formal warning letter. They wrote that this is a serious violation of the aid process and that Hamas continues to try to use the aid mechanism for terrorist activity and incitement. Hamas has tried to exploit humanitarian shipments before. Aid trucks have been used in the past to move materials with military or operational uses. Motor oil fits that category since it can be used to maintain weapons, vehicles, and tunnel machinery. Kogat said the smuggling attempt was stopped before the shipment entered Gaza. As the war disrupts global shipping, France is stepping in to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The French Armed Forces chief held a video call today with representatives from 35 countries worldwide to discuss plans to secure and reopen the critical waterway. Meanwhile, angry threats continue to pour in from other regional players. The leader of the Iran-backed Houthi rebels issued new threats today. Well, like all the other threats he mentions every single day almost. Threatening, calling on all Muslim countries to rise up against the United States and, obviously, Israel. At the same time, Turkey's President Erdogan gave a long, angry speech calling on Muslims to unite against the Zionists. He accused Israel of running a genocide. He warned Israel will pay the price, and he brought up Al-Aqsa, which means the Har Bayis in Arabic, claiming that it belongs to the chosen nation. He didn't mean the Jews. He meant the Islamic nation. He said it very clear. He wants Jewish presence there entirely gone. Inshallah, he said. Vladimir Zelensky, Hashem yimach shemoi v'zichroi. Vladimir Zelensky says the United States has put a peace proposal on the table in Miami, and it includes Ukraine handing over the Donbas region to Russia. The Donbas is a large industrial area in eastern Ukraine that Russia has been fighting over since 2014 and currently controls much of it. Zelensky says the American proposal ties any future security guarantees for Ukraine to giving up that land. No deal on protection unless Ukraine first agrees to the loss. Today is the day 1492 of the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion in February of 2022. Those who remember, Zelensky has not yet said whether Ukraine will accept. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky continued and arrived in Saudi Arabia. He announced he will be holding, quote, important meetings there. This comes amid those reports that the US is pushing Ukraine to give up land to Russia to end the war, like I just mentioned. Overnight, Ukraine's suicide drones hit a major oil refinery in Gershy. That is in the St. Petersburg region of Russia, not far from the city itself. The sky above Gershy turned bright red after the strike. Ukrainian drone strikes have paralyzed nearly half of Russian oil exports. Drones hit Russia's largest oil ports on the Baltic Sea. A major fire broke out at that area and is still burning on the Baltic Sea. Both ports had to stop all shipments right now. About 40% of Russia's total oil export capacity is completely shut down. That is around 2 million barrels a day that cannot move. So I guess Russia is also having trouble with oil. At least 50 ships are currently stuck, waiting in the Gulf of Finland. The fires are so massive that smoke can be seen from the coast of Finland, dozens of miles away. Separately, Ukrainian drones also struck the Russian Arctic patrol ship called the Purga. The ship was being built for Russia's FSB security service, hidden like the intelligence, like our CIA, the Israeli Mossad, Russia's main internal security agency, and was almost finished, I think the FBI. And it was hit while sitting in the port of Vyborg. The massive ship is now leaning over and has crashed into a nearby building. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has arrived in North Korea for a meeting with none other than Kim Jong-un. He gave him presents. Belarus and North Korea are both close allies of Russia, for those of you who don't know. And this is a rare high-level visit. North Korea almost never hosts foreign leaders. No details have been released yet about what the two sides plan to discuss, but he brought him presents like swords and guns and other blood-shedding tools. This visit comes as North Korea has been sending weapons and soldiers to help Russia fight in Ukraine. Lukashenko himself has allowed Russia to use Belarusian territory to launch attacks into Ukraine since the war began. A summit between President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping is now set for May 14th and 15th. Trump will travel to Beijing, his first trip to China in 8 years. The visit was first pushed back from next week due to the ongoing milchumah in the Middle East. Trump announced the new dates on Truth Social Wednesday and said Xi will make, not she as in Xi Jinping, will make a return visit to Washington later this year. Vice President J.D. Vance is headed to Hungary on April 7th and 8th, middle Chol Hamoed Pesach. This visit comes just days before Hungary's national elections, as the Trump administration shows its support for Prime Minister Viktor Orban's re-election. A Turkish oil tanker carrying about 1 million barrels of Russian crude oil was struck by a drone attack in the Black Sea, possibly from Ukraine. The drone hit the command bridge of the ship, causing flooding in the engine room. Now, no crew members so far have been hurt. Turkey condemned the attack and sent rescue forces to the scene. London police did a quick U-turn this week. They're back arresting Palestine Action protesters. A court had ruled the government's ban on the group was unlawful, so police briefly stopped making arrests. But now, while the government appeals that ruling, the ban stays in place. And so do the arrests. Palestine Action is a UK protest group known for vandalizing factories tied to Israeli defense companies. Senator Bill Cassidy, like they just did recently, they burnt an entire Elbit system. They just poured gasoline over it, broke into it, and burnt and caused a fire. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana is now warning New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani that federal public health funding could be at risk for him. Cassidy is demanding to know whether city taxpayer money went towards programs or events that promote anti-Israel positions and who authorized it. 40 days into a partial government shutdown, the TSA is now warning that airports across the country could be forced to close. Trump The Trump administration is sending 500 ICE agents to JFK, LaGuardia Airport, and in New York, and partly in response to Mayor Zaharan Mamdani's refusal to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. And also the agent got 2 days of training before being stationed in security lines in the airports to help check IDs. President Trump praised the move and says the National Guard could be next. Houston's airport has been hit especially very hard with these lines. Trump also announced that Mark Wayne Moulin, the new Secretary of Homeland Security, is instructed to use some sort of fund from the Treasury Department to pay TSA officers who stay at work. Elon Musk offered to pay the TSA agents, but the offer was rejected. The White House said there are legal issues because he has so many government contracts already. In the Senate, there is still no deal to end the shutdown. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer proposed reopening the Department of Homeland Security and paying TSA workers, but his plan included limits on how ICE can spend its money. Senator Majority Leader John Thune shot it down immediately, saying it's not even close to being real. Thune plans to bring his own bill to the floor today, one that would fund the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard, while putting ICE funding off for a separate vote later this year. That bill is expected to fall short of the 60 votes it needs to pass. Senator Lindsey Graham said he thought a deal had already been reached, and then watched it fall apart. He warned on Wednesday people are going to get hurt because of our fights. New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill signed a new law that bars ICE agents from wearing face coverings while on duty. The law also requires ICE agents to show identification before they can even detain anyone. She is teasing or testing Trump's patience. We reported on Wednesday about this, and now we have some more updates. As we told you, families of the victims of the 2001 bombing in the Sbarra pizza shop bombing received a payout this week connected to the skyscraper right on 5th Avenue in Manhattan. Here is a bigger picture. Back in the time of the Shah in Iran, an Iranian organization owned a 36-story office building on 5th Avenue. When the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, the building passed to the Iranian government, the current Iranian government, which is now dead, obviously. For decades, Iran hid its ownership through fake shell companies and quietly collected hundreds of millions of dollars in rent, while Iran-backed terrorists, Yamach Shimon, were carrying out attacks in Eretz Yisrael and around the world. Families of victims sued Iran in American courts. Iran owes those families an estimate of $5 billion, and they have seen very little of it. Now, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton announced a deal years in the making. The building was now transferred to an American group, and the money is going straight to those families. A total of $318 million was awarded. The first payment, $129 million, already went out this week. The remaining $189 million will be paid over the next 3 years. Los Angeles jury just ordered Google and Meta to pay $6 million in damages. The jury found that YouTube and Instagram were designed to be addictive and that this caused real harm to children. The jury ruled that both companies deliberately designed their apps to keep kids hooked, and now they are paying for it. Experts say this could unlock thousands of similar lawsuits already waiting in courts across the country. Plans to build a massive Islamic community in Texas have been officially shut down. Developers had been trying to build what they call Epic City in Kaufman County, a project critics warned would become a legally isolated Sharia city. The Texas Attorney General stepped in and cancelled the project entirely. FBI Director Kash Patel announced that a brother and sister have been indicted after an improvised explosive. A homemade bomb was found outside MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, home to CENTCOM and U.S. Special Operations Command. The sister is in custody for evidence tampering, while her brother, the primary suspect on explosive charges, has fled to China. The U.S. military struck and sank a drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean yesterday, killing 4 cartel members. No Americans were hurt. An American Airlines flight made an emergency landing. Well, yes, at Newark Liberty International Airport Wednesday night, last night. Flight 1461, a 737 MAX flying from Charlotte to Newark, had a malfunctioning nose landing gear and a blown front tire. Emergency vehicles responded on the tarmac. No injuries were reported. This comes just days after the deadly incident in a nearby airport, LaGuardia, on Sunday night. A regional Air Canada jet, which collided with a Port Authority vehicle, a fire truck on the ground at LaGuardia Airport, killing both pilots. The co-pilot and pilot. Things are getting weird on the official White House social media accounts since last night, my friends. Posts, random posts, weird, abstract posts, black pages, nothing, with a ding of an iPhone ring. The White House page on X has also started posting mysterious abstract images like this one, for an example, with, it looks like Trump. I'm not sure what he's doing. Is it hidden messages or codes? Can anyone decipher this? Anyway, no one seems to know what this means, or if it has any ties to the ongoing conflict. And finally, President Trump had a few jokes over the last 24 hours about his future job prospects. But first, let's talk about Protobyte. Protobyte is there for you when you need them. Protobyte 347-354-1237. They build software, custom software. And Kliger, if you ever need Kliger, to be a little bit Kliger, to join in all your applications in one, you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to all these CRM and applications that keep your project management aflow, as they call it, and of course WhatsApp, emails, all kind of different chats and stuff, and Google and email and stuff. Imagine having one inbox for all. Kliger, one inbox, 845-335-3343. Call them today for a demo, a free demo, or you can go to Kliger.com, KLEEGR.com. Now, YS Capital Group is there for you if you need to borrow some money. You need some money to make an investment? YS Capital Group is your place. 718-831-2168. All right. Arrive Express, your taxi. 845-622-1111. 845-254-1111. Okay, now, to Trump's crazy things he said, the proposals of the idea of anyone taking over as Iran's supreme leader, Trump said last night, "I've never been a head of a country who wanted that job less."
Listen to some of the things they say. We hear them very clearly. They say, "I don't want it. We'd like to make you the next supreme leader." No, thank you. I don't want it. But I want to express my gratitude.
Verstehst? He says, "No, thank you. I don't want it." And speaking about the political situation in Venezuela, Trump added, "I'm the highest polling person."
In other words, after the presidency, I think I may go to Venezuela and run for president against Elsie. I may run against Elsie. It's an option. No, they like me in Venezuela, but it's an option for me.
They like me in Venezuela. He is the funniest person in office, I know. Hate him or hate him, whatever you want to say, he is funny. In other words, Trump, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Donald Trumpinie. And he says, "Now, pass." Anyway, all right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.